Oh, we're live.
Hi, good morning everybody, and welcome to Talking Cafe Live on this Monday the 5th of October. I'm delighted to have with me, my name's Jane Lillis, I'm Village Agent West Somerset, and I'm delighted to have with me two lovely people who have been the linchpins and coordinators for two of our super good neighbours groups across Somerset. That's Sandra Collett for the Dolverton Good Neighbours group and Caroline Ellis from the North Town Taunton Good Neighbours group. The most recent group to be set up, I believe. We've also got with us Jane Birch from our Smart Communities team, who will be talking about all the help that's available from the Community Council for Somerset for communities that would like to set up their own Good Neighbours groups. For anyone who still doesn't know about the Somerset Good Neighbours scheme, it's probably been in operation, I think, about 18 months, 2 years now, and started with a pilot scheme in Stigumber in West Somerset. The Stigumber Good Neighbours group has been going now for getting on, I think, for 2 years, and is a shining example of a community coming together with volunteers to support the local residents within their area. Basically, Good Neighbour schemes are just groups of local people who come together to offer a voluntary service to support their community in ad hoc ways that can include things like doing shopping for people, helping walk their dog, picking up prescriptions, doing a bit of gardening, a bit of housework. It's a wide remit of things, but it is about being a good neighbour and what being good neighbours always used to be. Why we set them up into groups is because so often now neighbourliness has been lost a little, and a little coordination helps to bring it back together. And the Community Council for Somerset have launched the Good Neighbours scheme with its very super guide for setting up Good Neighbours schemes, and a lot of templates and useful information that's available that Jane will be able to tell you about a little later on. I'm going to hand over first to Sandra, and ask Sandra if she can give us a little background on the workings of setting up the Dolverton Good Neighbours group, and how it's going and some of the issues that they may have found. And then after Sandra, we'll have a word with Caroline and see how she coped with setting up her group as well. Okay, so good morning, Sandra.
Good morning.
I look forward to hearing you. So tell us all about the Dolverton Good Neighbours group.
Right, well, it started when I saw an advert in the local parish magazine from Jane Lillis, asking for volunteers to set up the Good Neighbours scheme across Somerset. And I spoke to a few people, and they all agreed that this sounded a very good idea. So I had a meeting with Jane, and she filled me in on everything that I might need to do to get going. Gave me a guidebook, the guidebook that had been put together by the Stigumber ladies, which is very, very useful, helpful, wonderful, full of wonderful information. The first thing I did was go and talk to the local council to see how they felt about it, the town council. I also spoke to our local rector to see how the church would feel about this, and spoke to lots of friends. And everybody was so very much behind it that some of them even offered us money straight away to help us to get going, which was absolutely brilliant. So I organised a public meeting in the local town hall, and we advertised heavily all the way around the area and invited loads and loads of people to come. We had a very good turnout. We had about 30 people lined up on the day to be volunteers. And from those people, we set up a very small committee, just 4 of us, supported by Jane, so that we could work out our best way forward. one of the most difficult things was setting up the bank account. And that did take forever, but we persevered with it and we got there. And we got our bank account organised so that we could start actually cashing our cheques that we'd been given and start buying things that we needed. And the first thing we bought was a mobile phone so that we would have a dedicated phone line for the Good Neighbours helpline. And it's important to keep that completely separate from your own home phone line, otherwise you're just inundated with calls. And that's all our information is. Yes, James got one of our.
I'm trying to get it.
Yeah.
How do I get that? There we go. I don't know if that's readable, but yeah, I'm going to type it in the comments, Sandra.
So we that the cards that Jane just showed you, we delivered that to every household in Dulverton, so that everybody knew the service that was available. And the little card says, "We are here to help you when you need it for companionship, shopping, household tasks, gardening, form filling, dog walking, etc. To arrange a visit, call the helpline coordinator." And that was the mobile number for our helpline. And we said that the helpline will be open from Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. because we do need a bit of time to lead our own lives as well, the coordinators. And that works well. People are very good. They ring the helpline between those times, and we take their messages in a call log and then organise a volunteer to go out and do the task. And that really is us. Everything is going really well. When COVID hit, we were ready. We were up and running, and loads more volunteers were signed up. And so we were able to cope with everything that was thrown at us, really, which was brilliant.
And what sort of requests for help do you get, Sandra?
It's mostly picking up prescriptions and shopping, quite a few dog walking. One or two people who were self-isolating needed help with gardening because their regular gardeners had disappeared and they just wanted a bit of extra help. It's sort of just the general neighbourly things that you would expect, really, for a Good Neighbours team to deal with. The most unusual call was from a lady who wanted her washing machine moved. It had been, a new machine had been delivered, and the delivery driver had left it in the doorway and she couldn't move it herself. So we managed to get somebody to go straight in and move that for her, and he also kindly plumbed it in for her, which was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So yes, it's still the same now. It's the same sort of calls for picking up shopping, although more people now are getting out and about again, so they're finding it a bit easier to get their own shopping, but we do still keep in touch and just make sure that they're okay.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of sort of companionship and help as well. I know Dulverton during the lockdown period were great at supporting their community, and there was like the launch of the sort of book swap with the library was closed, and jigsaw puzzles and things like this. And I guess the Good Neighbours had a hand in that, didn't they?
Well, yes, they were set up by Good Neighbours volunteers, really to raise money for the food bank, because it wasn't long before we were in lockdown that Jane, you contacted us and said, did we think that it was possible to set up a food bank in Dulverton as an offshoot of the Orkham Food Bank? And we were very, very lucky to have an excellent volunteer, Jenny Barker, who said, yes, I can do that. And the school offered us a classroom to store all the food in. And then we started raising money to stock the food bank because people weren't able to get all the shopping that they normally wanted, because they weren't able to go out to the supermarkets and things like that. We started raising money to buy food from wholesalers to stock all the food boxes, because at that time we were filling about, I think it was 20 boxes a week, something in that region. And there's about £25 worth of food goes into each food box. So we needed quite a bit of money to tide us over until donations of food started coming in again, and they have started now that there's more movement around. We're getting more tins and packets, but we did need to spend quite a lot of money to get the food bank going, but that's been a huge success and still is. And lots of people did amazing things to raise money. The proprietor of the Copper Kettle Cafe in Dolverton took on lots of sort of sporting challenges to raise money, and he asked for sponsorship in tins and packets, which was wonderful. And we had, as Jane said, the jigsaw swap and the book swap, and people have just been so kind. People have been so generous with the funding that they've offered us. To go and buy the food because they can't get out and get it themselves. To supply the food bank. So that's been wonderful. But I'm sure Jenny Barker is on holiday at the moment, taking a well-deserved rest. And I'm sure she'll come on the Talking Cafe at some time in the future and talk about the food bank, because she'll have a lot of stories to tell on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we had hoped to have Jenny with us today, but she is on holiday, and as you say, a well-deserved holiday. Okay, Caroline, tell us about your experiences with setting up the Northtown group.
Hi. Well, initially we set up in response to coronavirus. Had I known that coronavirus was heading down the track, I think we would have done it earlier. So I was quite envious of areas that already had that, that infrastructure. But it was the middle of March, it was before lockdown, and everyone was starting to think, oh my gosh, there are going to be people in our community because of their self-isolating or their shielding or whatever, who are going to be in need of help. And a lot of us were having the same thought at around exactly the same time. And luckily, because the Facebook, WhatsApp, people across Taunton were able to kind of very quickly together. So it was over like the course of one weekend, we went from nothing being in place to basically the basis of groups covering every ward in the district. So me and my friends Anne and Jenny set up for Northtown, and within a matter of days we thought, right, well, we'll put a little leaflet, rather like the way you started in Dolverton. We'd already decided, right, we're going to do this. We're going to, get people to help, because there were lots of offers of help coming forward. So we were quite confident we'd have a little gaggle to start with. So we did literally a pathetic little flyer I did on my computer, did on my funny old printer. And we popped that, we organised for that to go through every single door in Northtown. And then almost immediately we started having requests come in. So this was even just before lockdown started. And we didn't really know what we were doing. We just thought, well, how hard can it be? Let's just help. We'll just what people need, and we'll help our neighbours. So it did sort of kick off quite sort of suddenly. We soon got into a sort of rhythm with things. Like we realised what the kind of major needs were. We had a bit of dog walking and stuff. It was mainly shopping, prescriptions initially, and posting, getting to the post office, because that was quite difficult. And then we quite quickly realised that there were some people who would need ongoing help, regular help. So we were able to sort of match them with a keen volunteer and a backup volunteer, as well as dealing with sort of the ad hoc stuff. And we set up like rotas for the prescriptions at the height of it, because we were at a certain point in April, May, we were super, super busy. It was just every single day, loads of us out and about. So we kind of like sort of cracked on. We had a Facebook page. We think we set up a website quite quickly. That's always, I think, you set up something, have a website with information on it. And then we started to think, hang on, we need to sort of try and formalize this a bit going forward. And I did actually have that wonderful pack. It's a really good pack, the Good Neighbours pack, with all the information. So even before we just joined the scheme, we had that information. It really helped us sort of writing policies and procedures and working out how we were going to run the group. So that was going on in the background as we were sort of scrambling to, fulfill all the different requests that were going in. But from the outset, we'd always thought, actually, this is something that's needed long term, because we were thinking, well, now we're in the middle of a pandemic, this could go on and on and on. Because of a certain thing beginning with B, we might have, chronic food shortages towards the end of the year. Next year, we don't know what's going to happen. There are all sorts of, in the modern world, there are all sorts of potential crises and threats, and just having some sort of community infrastructure where we can all, whatever it is, we can all sort of come together and support each other. We thought that would be a very good idea going forward. So,
yeah, I'm just going to sort of stop in there, because Dulverton got launched, I think, December, January, didn't you, Sandra?
That's right.
We had another West Somerset group in Timberscombe that launched in February, beginning of March. So both of those groups were actually set up pre-COVID and lockdown, but the influence of those groups, the existence of those groups once we went into lockdown was so invaluable that it really reiterated how important these groups are to communities, particularly rural communities, which you're not, but the amazing thing that we have found as village agents is that rural communities are quite tight-knit anyway. A lot of the requests for help that we get is actually coming more from the urban areas, such as Taunton and Bridgewater. So yeah, we can see the need even there in the towns. Sorry, Caroline, carry on.
Yeah, no, we've had an amazing time. We've met so many, lots of friendships have been made, so there's been a huge value, I think, for the people doing the helping as well as the people who have, been helped. And I just think it all goes to a stronger community. We've had an amazing woman called Vivian, who's made shed loads of face masks for us. So the minute the ruling came in about you're going to have to wear one of these, you have to wear one of these on public transport and in the shops. We had a stash from Vivian, and then we put a newsletter out saying, we've got these if you need them, because there was a panic. Everyone was trying to buy them and people couldn't get out. So we're kind of always just trying to sort of respond to quickly to sort of the change, because things are changing slightly all the time. So we have that capacity though, because we've got a network. We can get stuff through doors quickly in a matter of days from it coming off somebody's computer. We can get it right the way across Northtown. But the Good Neighbours scheme has been really good. It's the perfect sort of fit with our sort of ethos and what we wanted to do. And it's nice to be feel you're part of that bigger network, that permanent bigger network, and part of something bigger. And you can access all the peer support and the advice, which is really good. The guide is brilliant, I think, and help sort of formalising, because we started in mid-March. But we've only just now got public liability insurance, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without the help from the Good Neighbours scheme. So it does help, really, really, it's a big help. And I just think we need to be ready for anything in the future. And the more we've got good coverage across all of our rural and urban areas, the better. Yeah.
And geographically, how far does your scheme extend, Caroline?
Well, it's quite small, because originally we just did it because I'm the district councillor for Northtown, so I went on my ward boundaries basically. We've ended up, then we were getting calls because somebody would ring up and they were nearby. Well, we've kind of got people all around and about as it happens, because originally we said we'll deliver from Frenchweir Pharmacy, which is literally right next door to my house. We were getting calls for people who I can't get my prescription, I don't live in Northtown, can you help? So we originally just like, anybody who needs a prescription from next door, we're going to go and get it, and we're going to get it to them. So then we ended up actually with supporting people, all around and about. So we've got the odd few Prior's Word, I can zoom across the meadow to Bishop's Hole Way. So it's really, we're quite flexible, and we were working with other groups as well.
Yeah,
So,
well, this is sort of what I was trying to get at, because the Dulverton group, I know, is covering Dulverton and Brushford, isn't it, Sandra?
That's right, yes, and also Brompton Regis.
Are you going out to, because I know, because I was going to say, I guess you're covering Bury, because that does come under the Dulverton postcode, but then you've got Brompton Regis as well.
Yes.
Other smaller hamlets. But what would be so great is to have neighbouring good neighbours groups set up in support as well, because while I think during coronavirus there certainly were some groups that came about, and I'll certainly here mention Winsford Village on Exmoor, which set up its own group virtually overnight, and was the mirror image of a good neighbours group, and I'm hoping to encourage them to convert that group into a good neighbours group. But yes, I mean, with the certainly the geographical distances in West Somerset, sometimes I think that we still need some more groups out there if possible, because they're big areas to cover, but the smaller communities can do so much for themselves. So it really would be good to see groups turning up. Great to see you here, Lucy. Thank you. Hello, you said hi a while ago. If anybody else has joined us, please do pop something in the comments so that we know that you're there. And if you've got any questions regarding the Good Neighbours schemes, pop them in the comments. We'll try and answer your questions while we're live, or if we can't answer them live, we will get an answer back to you. And if you've got a question for a village agent, that means you need to pass on personal details, please just message the Talking Cafe live Facebook page with your issue, and we will get a village agent to get back to you and help out. Okay, I'm going to pass over now to Jane, I think, who's going to tell us about the support that the Community Council can offer to those communities wanting to start good neighbours groups.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jane. Yeah, just to say, I'm standing in today for Mary Fraser, who Caroline I know has spoken to a lot in the last few weeks. Mary's actually out at the moment helping another group to set up as a good neighbours scheme. So so you've got me, Mary's manager, as Jane said, as in the community, in the Smart Communities part of CCS, and we're working alongside the agents to try and enable more groups to become good neighbours for all the reasons that Caroline and hopefully gives groups more some assistance in helping them to keep going. There's been such an amazing outpouring of support, really, hasn't there, in the last few months, all groups forming and people helping their neighbours, which is wonderful. But we want to encourage to keep going for other crises that might happen. As we said, the B word that may, who knows what's going to happen with that shortly, but just generally in people's lives, the little crises that happen within those or that people have. So that's why Good Neighbours is good, because it helps you, hopefully, with the structures that we've got in place. They're not too rigid, they're not too onerous, but it's enable those groups to form safely and keep going for the long term. So that's the reason why we've set it up. So it's kind of more of a structure, so it keeps it going and helps you volunteer still on your own, to feel that you've got some help there and we're getting involved in this. Mary's role is to be that sounding board, that support to help groups to form, whether that's looking at they might need, the ways that they should operate, or ways that they could do things better or differently. But she also has a small grant as well, which can help with the things that Sandra was talking about mobile phones, or as Caroline mentioned around DBS and insurance. You can cover those as well to enable groups to set up. So we've only got a short, a very small pot of money. So if there are groups that want to make use of that, then it has to be done on a bit of a first come, first service. We want to get it out to you know, while we can, to people to make use of that funding. So that's the kind of principles of what we're about. If people are interested in our pack, in the website, I don't know, Jane, if you can put it in or put it onto the screen about our website, but it's CCS.
I think
Is it
Hannah's
on there, or?
in the background and may be able to do that for us. If not, I will put it in just a minute.
Lovely. But yeah, so hopefully that will pop up, but it's on our website. There's the pack that can be downloaded, but people can also contact Mary directly. Her email address is Marie, spelled Marie, at somersetrcc.org.uk. So people can contact her directly as well, so if that's to follow up what she can do for your group. So that's so that's really all I wanted to say, that we're there and we can help people as and when they need us. She went through with me a list this morning of the communities she's working with, and she's working in some of our larger towns and some of our very small rural communities as well, because this is relevant to everybody everywhere in Somerset, whether you're a ward in a town or a kind of dispersed area on the top of Exmoor. It's relevant to everybody. So absolutely.
Okay. Oh, we seem to have lost Caroline. Not sure where she's gone off to. Lucy's asked the question as to how many people are involved in the Good Neighbours scheme. So we've lost Caroline, but Sandra, perhaps you could you mentioned that you started a small committee of 4, and I believe you've got about 70 volunteers. Is that right?
We did have, during the height of the virus and the lockdown, because a lot of people were on furlough and were looking for something useful to do, and so they signed up to help with all sorts of things, which is wonderful. A few of them have gone back to work now, so our numbers have reduced slightly, but we've still got I've got a list of around 40 to 50 people that I can contact, and I always try and match the volunteer who lives closest to the person asking for the help to save the travel costs. But we do always offer to pay the travel costs of our volunteers, because sometimes they have to go a little bit further afield, and it's not fair to put a burden on people who are on furlough, spending their own money to support a voluntary scheme. Yes, and we've got a committee of 4. There's Ginny Brown, who lives in Brushford, so she knows what's going on in Brushford. We've got Sandra Wilson, who has close contacts with the Dulverton Med Centre. Jill Doyle, who lives in Dulverton, in the centre of the town. She used to work in the pharmacy, so she knows nearly everybody in Dulverton, which is great. She takes over the helpline coordinator role for me when I need a break, and vice versa, and we sort of take it in turns, passing everything backwards and forwards. So we can always use some more volunteers. If anybody else out there would like to become a good neighbour in Dulverton or the surrounding area, please ring our helpline number, which is 07395 171 409, or email me at sandracollett@btinternet.com. That's Sandra Collett, Collett, all lowercase, at btinternet.com. Thank you.
Okay, that's lovely. And Caroline, we lost you for a little while, but we were responding to Lucy's question as to how many people are involved in the schemes. So Caroline's given, Sandra's given us an outline of 4 on the committee, and volunteers have varied between about 35 and 70, with the 70 at the. How is it for you, for your group?
Well, we've got a kind of core sort of 5 sort of coordinators that sort of make the sort of overarching decision, and then we have there's a kind of very big group pool of people, but some of them have had to go back to work, so there may have been about 30 of them at the height of it, and then there's a kind of group of probably about a dozen. So a lot of us are doing have regular people that we support regularly, and we'll just support going forward for as long as is needed. But among the wider group, there are people who will help. You know, if we need to get a newsletter or news update flyer out, they will help with things like that. So, but we always, you know, we're always on the lookout if there's people living in or near Northtown that want to get involved. Or even if you're looking, you know, if in your own neighbourhood in Taunton, you're not sure what the group do, get in touch with me, or you know, I can point you in the right direction, or we can get you working with a Northtown group.
Okay, brilliant. And how do people contact you? You've got a website, I think you said, did you?
Website, and that's got our contact. So it's basically just www.northtowncommunitysupport.com. And unlike Sandra, we're still using our mobile phones, our own mobiles. People get in touch. So it's just easier. It's just worked out easier that way. So my mobile's 07473 119 425.
Okay. Yeah. And the website there as well, fantastic. And I can see that I think Hannah's put up the link there that came up for more information on the scheme, which is fantastic. What I wanted to say that in terms of the numbers is that the Little Timberscombe group, that started, I think, with just a coordinator. They then did go for a small committee. I think they've just got a committee of 3 or 4, but I mean, they are only a small village, and currently I think they only have about 15 or 16 volunteers. So this isn't about so much size as I think it's just the willingness to give up some time to do this as a voluntary thing, and a lot of the size issue will depend on the size of the community that you take on for your Good Neighbours group. Yeah, Jane wants to say something there.
Yeah, just on that, I think sometimes people can be a bit overwhelmed by the idea of a committee and organisation, and its appropriateness, isn't it? It's having something that works for your group and the time you've got available. Because if you've got a group of people that are juggling full-time jobs, they've got children, they've got lots going on in their lives, haven't got lots of time to do committee meetings necessarily. So it's how you communicate and organise yourselves can be flexible depending on what you need to do, doesn't it? It doesn't all have to be the traditional meeting.
It's not
it can
very
be
formal.
No, it doesn't have to be. And I think sometimes people get the idea of a committee is everyone sitting around a table, you know, with minutes and notes, and it all becomes a bit onerous, and that's not what people want to do with their life. So you actually want to be out there helping people. So it's keeping it relaxed and, you know, the things you need to do, keeping a note of, but not worrying about it, you know, too much, I think, really.
Yeah. I think with Dulverton and Timber's going to involve tea and cake. Mostly.
That sounds a great kind of meeting.
Yeah. And just a few get-togethers just to make sure everybody was talking on the same lines. But I remember one of the first things when we very first started talking about Good Neighbours groups was one of the comments was that it could just be for your street. You know, you may not think that you can be a good neighbour to an entire parish or ward or village, but if you think you could set up a little small group to look after the people in your street, to keep an eye out for them, to help them out when they're in need, that can be a Good Neighbours group.
Yeah. And I think something else is also, like I can see with Sandra's group, that you've grown, haven't you? You started off doing the simple things, and now you're running a food bank, and, you know, just the growth, but it's doing things small and well, and having confidence to grow, isn't it? Rather than trying to do everything for everybody all at the same time, because otherwise it becomes a bit overwhelming, I think. But clearly you've proven what you can do, and it's going brilliantly, but it is kind of a growing as you want to, rather than feeling you have to do everything, I guess. But
yeah, and as the village agent that covers the Dulverton area, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the group and all its volunteers and the food bank for all the support they give to the people living in that area, because it is fabulous, and you're all wonderful.
Well, we've been so lucky in the support that we've had from our local community in with volunteers and with donations and everything else, that it's very humbling actually that so many people want to be involved and want to help in any way that they can, and the people that feel they can just donate a bit of money, that then that's great, because it all helps. It keeps everything going. So it really has been. And there's one road in particular where somebody decided to be the sort of agent for their whole road, and they made sure that everybody in that particular road knew to contact him, because he was one of our good neighbours, and he looked after his particular road, which was wonderful. But it was all under the sort of Good Neighbours umbrella, so that he was covered by our insurance and everything else. So
That's great.
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So on that fabulous note, ladies, I think we can wrap up for today. Thank you very much for your feedback, for joining us, and definitely Caroline and Sandra for the work you do with your Good Neighbours groups. Long may it continue. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. We're going to go offline now, but any further questions you might have regarding the Good Neighbours group can be directed to Marie, and the details are in the comments. Or if you want to contact the Talking Cafe Talking Cafe Facebook page, message them, and that message will be passed on to the appropriate person. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now. Bye.